You wake up one morning and realize that nothing moves you anymore. Not in a sad way, not in a depressed way, just in this strange flat way. The things that used to make you feel alive, the music that used to give you chills, the meals that used to feel like tiny celebrations, the conversations that used to spark something in your chest, all of it has become somehow transparent, see-through, like you're watching life through glass instead of living it. And naturally, you panic. You think something fundamental has broken inside you. You wonder if you're becoming depressed, if you need medication, if there's some chemical in your brain that stopped flowing properly. Or maybe you think you've just become numb, worn down by life, cynical. You've lost your ability to feel joy. And the question that haunts you is, will I ever feel anything real again? But what if I told you something that will sound completely backwards? What if the death of joy as you knew it is actually the most important thing that's ever happened to you? What if this flatness, this apparent numbness, is not the end of feeling but the beginning of something you've never experienced before? Something you can't recognize yet, because you're still searching for the old sensations, the old excitements, the old emotional highs you've been conditioned to call being alive. Let me show you what's really happening, because once you understand this, you'll never see your experience the same way again. Here's the thing nobody tells you about joy. What we call joy in ordinary life is not really joy at all. It's relief. It's the brief moment when a craving stops, when a tension releases, when a lack gets filled. You're thirsty, you drink water, and there's a moment of satisfaction. But notice something crucial. The satisfaction depends entirely on the thirst. Without the thirst, the water is just water. Without the lack, there's no satisfaction. You're bored, so you pick up your phone and scroll, and there's a little hit of stimulation. But the pleasure depends on the boredom. Without the discomfort of boredom, the stimulation doesn't register. You're lonely, so someone texts you, and there's a little rush of connection. But the rush depends on the loneliness. Without the ache, the message is just pixels on a screen. This is what's been happening your whole life. You've been living in a constant cycle of discomfort and relief, tension and release, and you've been calling the relief happiness. You've been calling the release joy, but it's really just the temporary absence of the discomfort you created in the first place. It's like someone pressing their thumb into your arm, harder and harder, until it hurts, and then they release it, and you feel this flood of relief, this sense of awe, and you call that feeling pleasure. But the real question is, why was someone pressing their thumb into your arm in the first place? Who was doing that? Who's been doing that your entire life? You've been creating the discomfort so you could experience the relief. You've been generating the lack so you could feel the satisfaction of filling it. You've been making yourself thirsty so you could enjoy drinking. Not consciously, not deliberately, but that's been the pattern, that's been the game. And what's happening to you now, this strange flatness, where nothing brings you joy anymore, is that you're beginning to see through the game. Alan Watts called this seeing through the illusion. You're starting to recognize that all these joys you've been chasing are really just escapes from discomforts you manufactured. And once you see this, really see it, not just understand it intellectually, the whole mechanism starts to break down. The relief doesn't satisfy anymore, because you've realized you're creating the need for relief. The pleasure doesn't work anymore, because you've seen that you're generating the pain just to experience the pleasure. It's like watching a magic trick after you know how it's done. The trick doesn't fool you anymore. The illusion has been shattered. So now you're stuck. You've seen through the game, but you haven't found anything to replace it. You're like someone who's just realized that every relationship they've ever had was based on neediness, on using another person to fill a hole inside themselves. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to those old relationships and feel the same way. The magic is gone. The spell is broken. This is what the Buddha was pointing at when he talked about dukkha, this word that gets translated as suffering, but really means something more like unsatisfactoriness. He wasn't saying that everything is miserable. He was saying that this whole system of seeking pleasure and avoiding pain, of filling lacks and satisfying wants, is inherently unstable. It's built on a foundation of not enough. It requires you to feel incomplete so you can feel the joy of becoming complete. But you never actually become complete. You just cycle between incompleteness and temporary relief, between hunger and satisfaction, between loneliness and connection, between boredom and stimulation. And most people never question this. They accept it as just how life works. They think the goal is to have more satisfactions and fewer discomforts, more relief, less tension, more pleasure, less pain. They spend their entire lives optimizing this system, never realizing that the system itself is the problem. But you've started to see it. Maybe you didn't ask to see it. Maybe you didn't even want to see it. But something in you has recognized the pattern. And once that recognition happens, all those old joys lose their power over you. The scratching doesn't satisfy because you've realized you're creating the itch. The drug doesn't work anymore because you've understood that the drug itself creates the withdrawal it promises to cure. And this leaves you in the most uncomfortable position imaginable. You're caught between two worlds. The old world of seeking and getting, of wanting and satisfying, has become transparent. You can see right through it. You can't take it seriously anymore. But you haven't discovered the new world yet. You don't know what comes after seeking. You don't know what life looks like when you're not constantly running toward pleasure and away from pain. So you're in this gap, this void, this space between. And it's terrifying because there's nothing to hold on to. All your familiar strategies for feeling okay have stopped working. All your ways of generating meaning and excitement have lost their effectiveness. You're like someone who's been walking on a path their whole life, and suddenly the path has disappeared, and you're standing in the middle of nowhere with no idea which direction to go. The usual response, and this is crucial to understand, is to panic and try to get back to the old way. You throw yourself into new activities, new hobbies, new relationships, hoping something will rekindle that spark. Or you go for stronger stimulations, louder experiences, more intense sensations, more dramatic emotions, like someone whose taste buds have gone numb, reaching for hotter and hotter spices, thinking if you just turn up the volume enough, you'll feel something again. But here's what you need to understand. This doesn't work. In fact, it makes everything worse. Because what's really needed is not more stimulation, it's the opposite. What's needed is to stop running, to stop seeking, to stop trying to force yourself to feel something, anything. What's needed is to simply be with this apparent emptiness, this flatness, this void where your old joys used to be. Not to try to fill it or fix it or make it go away, but to actually be with it, to let it be exactly as it is. And this is perhaps the hardest thing I could ask you to do, because we're so terrified of emptiness. We think emptiness is death. We think it's meaninglessness. We think it's the absence of everything that makes life worth living. Every fiber of your being wants to run from this emptiness, to fill it with something, to make it go away. But what if emptiness is not what you think it is? Think about it this way. Imagine you've spent your entire life in a movie theater. You've been watching films on the screen since you were born. Comedies, dramas, thrillers, romances, you've seen them all. And you've had reactions to all of them. You've laughed, cried, felt excited, felt scared. Your whole emotional life has been determined by what's on the screen. And naturally, you think this is what life is. The movies are reality. The emotions they generate are real feelings. When the movie is good, you feel good. When the movie is boring, you feel bored. Your entire sense of being alive is tied to what's happening on that screen. But then one day something strange happens. The projector breaks. The screen goes blank. And for the first time in your life, you're sitting in a dark theater with nothing to watch. And it's horrible. You feel empty, dead, like all the life has been drained out of you. Because without the movies, without the constant stream of stories and emotions and drama, what is there? And your first instinct is to panic. You want to fix the projector. You want to get the movies back. You try different theaters, different films, hoping something will work. But nothing does. The magic is gone. Even when you watch a movie now, you're aware that it's just images on a screen. You can't lose yourself in it anymore. You can't forget that you're sitting in a theater watching a projection. This is where you are right now. The projector of your old joy-seeking mechanism has broken down, and you're sitting in the dark, desperately wanting the movies back. But here's what you don't realize yet. While you've been sitting there in the dark, panicking about the blank screen, something else has been happening. Your eyes have started to adjust, and slowly, very slowly, you're beginning to see something you never noticed before, because you were always too focused on the screen. You're beginning to see the theater itself, the actual space you've been sitting in all along. Not the projected images, but the real room, the real walls, the real air, the real fact of your sitting here, breathing, being present. And it's nothing like the movies. It's not entertaining. It's not dramatic. It's not exciting. It's just here, simple, ordinary, utterly undramatic. But it's real in a way the movies never were. Because the movies were always changing, always moving, always trying to grab your attention and manipulate your emotions. But this simple fact of being in the theater, this has been here the whole time, constant, unchanging, not dependent on what's on the screen. This is what's waiting for you on the other side of the loss of joy. Not new movies, not better entertainment, but the recognition of what's been here all along underneath the entertainment, the bare fact of existence itself, the simple awareness of being alive, of being here, of being. And I know this sounds disappointing. You're thinking, is that all? Just existing? Just being aware that I'm here? That's what I get instead of joy. And yes, it sounds like nothing compared to the highs and lows, the dramas and excitements, the constant stimulation you've been calling life. But you haven't experienced it yet. You're still judging it from the perspective of someone addicted to the movies, someone who thinks life is the projection rather than the theater itself. You're like someone who's never tasted water, only ever had soda, and when someone tells them about water they think that sounds boring. Why would I want something with no flavor? But the thing about water is that it satisfies thirst in a way soda never can. Soda creates more thirst. It's sweet, it's stimulating, but it leaves you wanting more. Water doesn't create thirst, it actually quenches it completely. And once you've discovered real thirst quenching, soda stops being appealing. Not because you're better than people who drink soda, but because you've tasted something that actually satisfies. This is the transition you're in. You've lost your taste for soda, for the manufactured pleasures, the artificial sweetness of contrast-based joy, but you haven't yet discovered the taste of water, of simple being, of existence without the need for enhancement or entertainment. And you can't force yourself to like water. You can't make yourself appreciate it. It only reveals itself when you stop demanding that everything have flavor, when you stop insisting that life be exciting and stimulating and dramatic, when you give up the addiction to intensity. That's when you discover that simplicity has its own quality, not better, not worse, just different and sufficient. Now I need to warn you about something. When you hear me describe this state, this simple being, this fundamental okayness, part of you recoils, part of you thinks, that sounds like death, that sounds like giving up, that sounds like settling for a life of bland nothingness. And I understand this reaction, because you've been taught your entire life that intensity equals aliveness, that excitement equals being fully engaged with existence, that if you're not feeling something strong, joy or sadness, pleasure or pain, anticipation or fear, then you're not really living, you're just existing, just going through the motions. But here's what nobody tells you about intensity. It's exhausting. Living at that pitch, constantly seeking peak experiences, constantly generating drama and emotion, constantly chasing highs and avoiding lows. It's like running a marathon every single day of your life. You can't sustain it. Nobody can sustain it. What actually happens is this. You have these brief moments of intensity, a thrilling experience, a passionate encounter, an exciting discovery, and then you crash hard. You spend days or weeks in a kind of emotional flatness, a deflation, waiting for the next high. And during those in-between times, ordinary life feels unbearable, dull, meaningless, because you've conditioned yourself to believe that only the peaks count, that only the intense moments are worth living for. And so the lows get lower, the in-between times get more unbearable, and you need stronger and stronger stimuli to achieve the same highs. You need more dramatic relationships, more extreme experiences, more intense sensations. You become like a drug addict, constantly chasing a high that becomes harder and harder to reach, while the withdrawal periods become longer and more painful. This is the pattern most people are trapped in. They're addicted to their own drama. They're addicted to emotional intensity. They're constantly creating problems so they can solve them, generating conflicts so they can resolve them, stirring up feelings so they can feel alive. They mistake agitation for vitality. They confuse anxiety with engagement. They think that if they're not feeling something intense, they're not really present. But Alan Watts understood something most people miss. What you've been calling being alive is actually a form of sleepwalking. You've been so busy chasing sensations that you've never actually been here. You've been so focused on making yourself feel something that you've missed the simple fact of being. And what you've lost, this capacity for manufactured joy, this addiction to intensity, it was never real aliveness. It was a substitute for aliveness. It was something you created because you were afraid of what real presence feels like. Because real presence doesn't have that quality of drama. It doesn't have that edge of excitement. It's not trying to be anything. It's not performing. It's not achieving. It's just here. And at first, when you're coming down from the addiction to intensity, this feels like death. The absence of agitation feels like emptiness. The lack of drama feels like meaninglessness. You've been agitated for so long that you've forgotten what it's like to simply be at rest. You've been running for so long that when you finally stop, you think something's wrong. The stillness feels terrifying. Let me tell you about someone I met years ago. A woman who lived like she was being chased. She had 3 jobs, 5 hobbies, traveled every chance she got, was always taking classes, learning languages, collecting skills and experiences. Her schedule was packed from dawn until she collapsed at night. And she was exhausted, perpetually exhausted, but she wore her exhaustion like a badge of honor. She thought it meant she was really living, really engaging with life, really making the most of her time here. And she looked at people who lived more quietly, more simply, and she pitied them. She thought they were wasting their lives, not really living, just existing, going through the motions. Then she got sick. Nothing life-threatening, but something that forced her to stop, to rest, to cancel everything and just lie there for weeks. And at first she went crazy. She couldn't stand it, the stillness, the quiet, the lack of activity. She felt like she was dying, like her life was slipping away. But then something strange happened. After a few weeks of forced rest, something in her relaxed, something she didn't even know was tense, and she started to notice things she'd never noticed before. The way light moved across the wall, the sound of birds in the morning, the taste of water, simple things, ordinary things, things she'd been too busy to notice her entire life. And she realized something that shocked her. All that running around, all that constant activity and stimulation, it hadn't been her really living. It had been her running away from living. She'd been afraid of the present moment, afraid of just being here without something to do, something to achieve, something to distract her from the simple fact of existence. So she'd filled every moment with activity, with goals, with experiences, with intensity. Not because she was so alive, but because she was terrified of the aliveness that was already here. The aliveness that didn't require anything, that didn't need to be earned or achieved or generated, that was just present in the simple act of breathing, of being aware, of existing. And once she saw this, once she really understood it, she couldn't go back to the old way. The constant rushing around felt insane to her now, pointless, like someone running on a treadmill faster and faster, thinking they're getting somewhere, not realizing they're just running in place, wearing themselves out. She still did things. She still worked and had hobbies and saw friends, but there was a different quality to it. She wasn't doing things to feel alive anymore. She wasn't using activity as a drug to avoid the present moment. She was already alive, already here, and the activities she chose came from that aliveness, rather than being attempts to create it. This is what I'm pointing you toward. When nothing brings you joy anymore in the old way, you're being forced to stop running, to stop using experiences and sensations and drama as a way to avoid simple presence. And yes, at first this feels like death, because you've confused running with living. You've mistaken agitation for vitality. But what you're discovering, or what you will discover if you let yourself be with this state rather than trying to escape it, is that there's something here that doesn't depend on intensity, something that doesn't need to be manufactured or generated or achieved, something that's been here all along, waiting for you to stop long enough to notice it. It's not excitement, it's not thrill, it's not that rush you used to get from new experiences. It's quieter than that, more subtle, so subtle that your mind keeps dismissing it as nothing, as emptiness, as boredom, because your mind has been trained to only recognize intensity as meaningful, only dramatic emotions as real, only peak experiences as worth paying attention to. But this quiet thing, this simple presence, it has a quality that intensity can never have. It's sustainable. It doesn't exhaust you. It doesn't require constant effort to maintain. It doesn't need to be topped or exceeded, or made more intense. It's just here, steady, constant, not going anywhere, not trying to be anything other than what it is. So let me tell you what actually happens when you stop running, when you stop trying to recapture the old joys, when you finally give up the search for intensity and excitement and manufactured meaning. At first, there's nothing, just this apparent void, this flatness, this sense that life has become colorless and empty. And you sit with this, Not because you want to, but because you have no choice, because nothing else works anymore. You can't force yourself to feel. You can't manufacture enthusiasm. You can't trick yourself back into the old patterns. And you sit with it, day after day, just going through the basic motions of life. Eating, sleeping, breathing, doing what needs to be done without any expectation that it should make you feel anything. Not with resignation, not with bitterness, just with a kind of neutral acceptance. This is what's here. This is what's happening. And then at some point, and you can't predict when this will be, because it's not something you can make happen, something shifts. Not dramatically, not like a lightning bolt or a sudden revelation, more like a settling, like dust settling after being stirred up, like water becoming clear after being cloudy. And you realize something extraordinary. There's a quality present that you've never noticed before. It's not joy in the old sense. It's not excitement or pleasure or thrill. It's more like an okayness, a fundamental sense that everything is actually all right, exactly as it is. Not that everything is perfect. Not that you don't have problems or discomforts or difficulties, but underneath all of that, there's this sense of sufficiency, completeness, like nothing needs to be added or subtracted, like this moment exactly as it is somehow enough. And this okayness doesn't depend on circumstances. It's not there because things are going well. It's not absent when things are going poorly. It's just there, constant, steady, like a background hum you never noticed because you were too focused on the foreground noise. The old joys were always based on contrast, good versus bad, pleasure versus pain, excitement versus boredom. They required the lows to make the highs possible. They needed lack to create satisfaction. They were part of a dualistic system where one side couldn't exist without the other. But this okayness doesn't work that way. It's not the opposite of anything. It's not competing with anything. It's not trying to push anything away or pull anything toward itself. It's just present. Whether you're comfortable or uncomfortable, whether things are pleasant or unpleasant, whether you're getting what you want or not getting what you want. It's like you've been living in a house your entire life, racing from room to room, searching frantically for something, looking in closets, under beds, in drawers, convinced that whatever you need must be somewhere in this house if you could just find it. And you spend years doing this, running from room to room, searching, seeking, never finding. And then one day you stop, exhausted, done with searching, and you're just standing there in the middle of the house, not doing anything, not looking for anything, just standing there. And suddenly you realize what you've been looking for was the house itself. It was here the whole time. You were standing in it. You are it. But you couldn't see it because you were too busy searching. You couldn't recognize what you already had because you were convinced it must be something you needed to find. This is what happens when the old joys fall away. You stop searching, not because you've given up hope, but because you've exhausted all the places to look. And in that moment of stopping, of simply being here without trying to make anything happen, you discover what's been present all along. Your own being, your own awareness, the simple fact of existing, of being conscious, of being alive. And it's not nothing. It's not emptiness in the negative sense. It's actually everything. It's the ground of all those experiences you were chasing. It's what was there before you learned to seek and strive and struggle. It's what remains when all the seeking stops. But it's so simple, so ordinary, so undramatic. That's why you missed it. That's why we all miss it. Because we're looking for something special, something extraordinary, some peak experience or mystical revelation or cosmic insight. And this is just here, plain, obvious, completely available, not hidden, not requiring any special technique or practice or understanding to access, just here, like water to a fish. So pervasive, so constant, so much the medium in which everything happens that it becomes invisible. You can't see it because you're looking for it, not realizing you're looking from it. You can't find it because you already are it. And when this recognition happens, not as an intellectual understanding, but as a lived realization, everything changes, and nothing changes. The world looks the same. Your circumstances are the same. You still have the same problems and challenges and difficulties. But there's this underlying sense that it's all somehow okay, all somehow complete, all somehow exactly as it should be. Not because you've become passive or resigned or indifferent, but because you've recognized that the search itself was the problem. The seeking itself was creating the sense of lack. The effort to become something other than what you are was the only thing preventing you from recognizing what you already are. This is what the Taoists meant when they talked about Wu Wei, not doing, not passivity but action that comes from presence rather than from lack. Not giving up but giving up the struggle against what is. Not becoming less but recognizing that you were never insufficient in the first place. And this is what the Zen masters were pointing at with all their paradoxes and koans and sudden shouts. They were trying to interrupt the seeking mind, to stop the endless cycle of looking for something, to force you into direct recognition of what's already here. But you can't force that recognition. You can only create the conditions for it. And the main condition is, stop seeking. Stop trying to get the old joys back. Stop trying to feel something. Stop trying to make life exciting or meaningful or special. Just be with what is, right now. This breath, this moment, this simple fact of being alive, being aware, being here. And I know this sounds impossibly simple. You're thinking, that's it? Just stop trying? Just be here? That's the answer? And your mind wants something more complex, more sophisticated, more impressive, some technique or practice or path to follow. But the very wanting of something more is what keeps you from what's already present. The seeking is the obstacle. The effort is the problem. Not because effort is bad, but because what you're seeking doesn't require effort. It's already here. It's already the case. You're already it. You just keep overlooking it because it's too simple, too obvious, too ordinary. You keep expecting that the answer must be somewhere else, must be something special, must require some kind of achievement or attainment, and that expectation itself is what blinds you to what's right in front of you, what you are. Now, I know this isn't what you wanted to hear. You wanted me to tell you how to get your joy back, how to feel alive again, the way you used to. How to recapture that sense of excitement and meaning and pleasure you once had. You wanted a technique, a practice, a method, something you could do to fix this problem. But what I'm telling you is that what you're experiencing is not a problem, it's a transformation. And you can't rush a transformation, you can't force it, you can't make it happen according to your schedule or your preferences. Think about a caterpillar in a cocoon. Inside that cocoon, the caterpillar completely dissolves. It literally turns into mush. Its entire structure breaks down. All the systems that made it a caterpillar, the way it moved, the way it ate, the way it experienced the world, all of that disintegrates. And if that caterpillar could think, if it could have opinions about what was happening to it, it would be terrified. It would think something had gone horribly wrong. It would desperately try to get back to being a caterpillar, to restore the old structure, to return to what was familiar and known. But it can't. The caterpillar is finished. That form is done. It's over. And there's nothing to do but be the mush, to be in the dissolution, to be in the breakdown of the old structure without knowing what the new structure will be. Because here's the thing, the mush doesn't know it's going to become a butterfly. It has no concept of what a butterfly is. It can't imagine flying. It can't picture what it will be like to have wings instead of legs, to drink nectar instead of chewing leaves. That future state is completely unimaginable from where it is. All it knows is that everything it was has fallen apart. And it's in this state of formlessness, this state of not knowing, this state of complete dissolution. And if it tried to escape from this state, if it tried to force itself back into caterpillar form or forward into butterfly form, it would destroy the whole process. The only thing the mush can do is be the mush, to stay with the dissolution, to trust the process especially though it has no idea what's happening or where it's going. This is where you are right now. You're the mush, the old structure, the old way of experiencing joy through contrast and intensity and seeking has dissolved, and you don't know what's coming next. You can't see the new form yet. You can't imagine what it will be like to experience life without that constant cycle of wanting and getting, lacking and filling. All you know is that the old way is gone, and you're in this formless state, this apparent emptiness, this void where your familiar way of being used to be. And every instinct in you wants to escape this state, to get back to the old form or force your way into a new form, to do something, anything, rather than just be with this dissolution. But that's exactly what you can't do, because the transformation isn't something you do, it's something that happens through you. Your job isn't to make it happen. Your job is to not interfere with it, to not try to escape, to not try to force yourself back into the old mold or forward into some imagined new state. Your job is to simply be with what is. to be with the mush, to be with the formlessness, to be with the not knowing, not because you're trying to be patient or spiritual or enlightened, but simply because there's nothing else you can do, because all the doors have closed, all the old strategies have stopped working, and you're left with just this moment, this experience, this apparent emptiness. And here's what you need to understand. This is not a mistake. This is not something that's gone wrong. This is the process. This is what Alan Watts meant when he talked about necessary dissolution. The old structure needs to dissolve completely before the new one can emerge. You can't become what you're going to be while still clinging to what you were. The caterpillar has to become mush. There's no way around it. There's no shortcut. There's no technique that will let you skip this phase or speed through it. You have to be willing to be dissolved, to have everything you thought you were fall apart, to lose all your familiar ways of navigating reality. And this takes time. Not days, not weeks, sometimes months, sometimes years. The process has its own timeline, and that timeline has nothing to do with your preferences or your schedule or your comfort level. You can't negotiate with it. You can't bargain with it. You can only surrender to it. And surrendering doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean becoming passive or resigned or hopeless. It means recognizing that you're not in control of this process, that this is something happening to you through you, beyond your ability to manage or manipulate. It means being willing to not know, to not understand, to not have any idea what's happening or why or where it's leading, to be in complete darkness without reaching for a flashlight, to be in complete silence without turning on music, to be in complete stillness without creating movement. This is perhaps the hardest thing any human being can be asked to do, because we're so terrified of not knowing. We think not knowing is dangerous. We think it means we're lost. We think it means something's gone wrong. So we immediately start trying to figure things out, to make sense of things, to create some kind of meaning or structure or understanding. But in this phase, that's exactly what keeps the transformation from happening. The trying to figure it out, the trying to understand, the trying to make meaning. All of that is the old mind trying to reassert control, trying to put you back in the familiar structure, trying to restore the caterpillar when the caterpillar is already gone. What's needed is to let go, not to try to let go. That's just more trying, but to actually let go, to stop holding on, to stop resisting, to stop trying to manage or control or understand what's happening, to simply be with it, to be the mush without apologizing for being mush, to be in dissolution without trying to speed up the process or slow it down or redirect it. Just be with what is, with the flatness, with the colorlessness, with the apparent meaninglessness, with the loss of the old joys, with the absence of excitement, with the emptiness, not trying to fill it, not trying to fix it, not trying to understand it, or transcend it, or make it into something else. Just let it be. Let it be exactly as it is. Let yourself be exactly as you are, in this state, in this moment, without needing it to be different, without needing yourself to be different, without needing anything at all. So what do you actually do while you're in this state where nothing brings you joy, while you're the mush in the cocoon, while you're waiting for eyes to adjust to the daylight? You do what needs to be done. That's all. You brush your teeth in the morning. You make your meals. You go to work if you have work. You take care of your responsibilities. You move through your day. But you do it without expectation, without the demand that these activities should make you feel something, without the insistence that life should be exciting or meaningful or pleasurable. You do things simply because they're here to be done, not with resentment, not with bitterness, not with the heavy sigh of someone who's given up, but with a kind of neutral acceptance. This is what's here. This is what's happening. This is what needs to be done. And you might think this sounds depressing, like you're just going through the motions, just existing rather than living. But actually, this is the first time you're really here, because you're not using activities as a drug anymore. You're not doing things to feel alive or to distract yourself from emptiness or to manufacture meaning. You're just doing what's here to be done. And there's a strange simplicity to this, a cleanness. You're not layered over with expectations and demands and hopes and fears. You're just here doing this thing in this moment. And you watch, you observe this state you're in, not with clinical detachment, not trying to analyze it or figure it out, but with a kind of gentle curiosity. The way you might watch clouds moving across the sky, just watching, noticing what's here without needing it to be different. You notice the flatness. You notice the absence of excitement. You notice the way food tastes bland, the way music doesn't move you, the way conversations feel hollow. You notice all of it without judging it, without making it mean something about you, without turning it into a story about how broken you are or how meaningless life is. It's just what's happening right now. That's all. Clouds moving across the sky. Some dark, some light, some moving fast, some barely moving at all. You don't need the clouds to be different. You're just watching them. And most importantly, and this is crucial, you stop comparing. You stop comparing this moment with how you used to feel. You stop comparing yourself with other people who seem to be enjoying life. You stop comparing your current state with some imagined future state when everything will be better. Because comparison is what creates suffering. Comparison is what turns this moment into a problem. This moment, exactly as it is just this moment. It's neither good nor bad, neither right nor wrong. It's just what is. But the moment you compare it with some other moment, some memory of how things used to be, or some fantasy of how things should be, suddenly it becomes deficient. Suddenly there's something wrong. Suddenly you're not okay, and this moment is not okay, and your life is not okay. So you stop comparing. Not because you're trying to be spiritual or enlightened, but because you see that comparison is the mechanism that creates the sense of lack. Without comparison, there's just this, and this, exactly as it is, needs nothing added to it, needs nothing taken away from it. It's complete in itself. This is not resignation. This is not giving up on life. It's actually the opposite. It's fully showing up for your life as it actually is, rather than constantly wishing it were different, rather than constantly living in the fantasy of how things used to be, or how they should be, or how they will be. You're here, now, with what is. And paradoxically, it's only when you stop trying to change things that anything can actually change. Because what's blocking the new way of experiencing life, the new recognition, the new awareness, is your resistance to what is. Your insistence that things should be like they were before. Your clinging to the memory of the old joys. Your expectation that life should return to that familiar pattern of highs and lows, pleasures and pains. All of that resistance, all of that clinging, all of that expectation, it's creating a wall between you and what's actually here. It's like trying to see your reflection in water while constantly stirring the water. The reflection is there, but you can't see it because you won't let the water be still. You have to let the water be still. You have to stop stirring. You have to stop trying to make things happen. And the only way to do that is to be with what is, completely, without reservation, without secretly hoping it will change if you just accept it enough. Real acceptance has no agenda. It's not a technique to make things better. It's not a strategy to get what you want. It's genuinely being okay with this, exactly as it is, even if it never changes, even if this flatness is permanent, even if you never feel joy again in any sense. Can you be okay with that? Can you be with what is without needing it to be different? Without needing yourself to be different? Without needing anything at all? This is the question. And you can't answer it theoretically. You can't decide intellectually that yes, you're okay with it. You can only discover it by actually being with it. Day after day, moment after moment. Just this, just here, just now. And gradually, not according to any schedule, not following any predictable pattern, something shifts. Not because you've earned it or achieved it, or finally done the right thing, but because you've stopped doing the wrong thing. You've stopped resisting. You've stopped trying to force life to be what you think it should be. And in that stopping, in that surrender, in that genuine acceptance of what is, space opens up, space for something you couldn't see before, something that was always there but that you couldn't recognize because you were too busy looking for something else, too busy comparing, too busy resisting, too busy trying. Let me give you one final way of looking at this, one final reframe that might help you understand what's really happening. Perhaps the reason nothing brings you joy anymore is not that you've lost something. Perhaps it's that you've outgrown something. You've become too big for the old container, too deep for the shallow satisfactions, too expanded for the narrow definitions of what it means to be alive. Not because you're better than other people, not because you're more evolved or more spiritual or more enlightened, but simply because something in your consciousness has shifted, and the old forms can no longer hold what you've become. Think about it this way. A child is genuinely, completely delighted by candy. That's not fake. That's not them pretending. Candy really does bring them joy. It's a peak experience for them, and if you take the candy away, they're genuinely devastated. A teenager discovers romance and adventure, and these things are everything. They're the meaning of life. They're what makes existence worth living, the intensity of young love, the thrill of new experiences, the drama of it all. It's real, it genuinely matters, it genuinely brings joy. A young adult finds satisfaction in accomplishment, in building a career, in achieving goals, in gaining recognition, in proving themselves. And this too is real. This too brings genuine satisfaction. It's not meaningless, it's not empty, it genuinely fulfills something. But here's what happens. At a certain point, for some people, all of these things start to become transparent. Not because they've become cynical or jaded, not because they've given up or stopped caring, but because they've seen through them. They've recognized these satisfactions for what they are: temporary, conditional, ultimately unable to deliver what they seem to promise. The child grows up and realizes candy is just sugar. It still tastes good, but it doesn't have that magical quality anymore. The teenager matures and sees that romantic intensity was really just neediness, dressed up as passion. The adult achieves their goals and discovers that accomplishment doesn't fill the hole it was supposed to fill. And at each stage, there's a loss, a genuine loss. The child mourns the loss of the magic of candy. The teenager grieves the loss of romantic intensity. The adult feels the emptiness of achievement. Each transition involves a death of the old way of finding meaning and satisfaction. But it's not really a loss. It's a shedding, like a snake shedding its skin. The old skin isn't bad, it served its purpose. But the snake has grown, and the old skin no longer fits. It has to be shed so the new, larger form can emerge. This is what's happening to you. You've outgrown the old way of experiencing joy, the old container. This system of seeking and getting, lacking and filling, creating discomfort so you can experience relief. It can't hold you anymore. It's too small, too limited, too narrow. And so it's cracking, breaking apart, falling away, and you're left without a container, without a structure, without a familiar way of navigating existence. And this is terrifying, because you don't yet know what the new container will be. You don't yet know what the new form will look like. All you know is that you're too big for the old one. You can't squeeze yourself back into it. You can't pretend that manufactured pleasures still satisfy you. You can't go back to believing that the next achievement or experience or relationship will finally make you complete. You've seen too much. You know too much. Not intellectually. This isn't about having read the right books or understood the right concepts, but in your bones, in your direct experience. You've seen that the whole system is built on a fiction. The fiction that you're incomplete, that you're not enough, that you need something external to make you whole. And once you've seen through that fiction, you can't unsee it. The game is over. Not because you wanted it to be over, not because you chose to end it, but because the game depends on you not seeing that it's a game. And you've seen it. So now you're here, in this space between the old and the new, between the old way of being human and some new way that you don't yet understand. And you're being asked to trust something you can't see, to trust that this dissolution is not a mistake, that this apparent loss is actually a gain, that this death is actually a birth. You're being asked to trust that you're not broken, that there's nothing wrong with you, that this flatness, this emptiness, this loss of joy is not a malfunction but a metamorphosis, that you're not ending but beginning, not dying but being born. And the only way to trust this is to go through it, to stay with it, to be the mush in the cocoon without knowing you're going to be a butterfly, to let the old skin fall away without clinging to it, to become larger than the old container without demanding to know what the new container will look like. You're being thrown back on existence itself, on the bare fact of being alive, being conscious, being here. And this seems like nothing compared to the old excitements, the old pleasures, the old satisfactions. It seems flat, colorless, empty. But it's not empty, it's full. It's the fullness from which all those other things arose. It's the ground, the foundation, the source. It's what was there before you learned to seek pleasure and avoid pain. It's what remains when all the seeking stops. And it's not nothing, it's everything. But it's so simple, so ordinary, so undramatic that the mind overlooks it constantly. The mind is trained to look for something special, something extraordinary, something that will finally make you complete. But what you're discovering, or what you will discover, is that there's nothing more special than this moment, this breath, this simple fact of being alive. Not because it feels good, not because it's pleasurable, but because it's real. It's what is, and what is enough. It's always been enough. You just forgot. You got hypnotized by the game of seeking. You got caught up in the drama of incompleteness and completion. You started believing that life was something to be achieved, rather than something you already are. And now the spell is breaking. The hypnosis is wearing off, and you're waking up to what was always here. Not as a concept, not as a belief, but as a direct recognition. A seeing that changes everything, even though nothing changes. You haven't lost your joy. You've lost your addiction to a particular kind of feeling. And in that loss is an opening, a possibility, a doorway into a different way of being human. A way that doesn't depend on circumstances, doesn't require constant stimulation, doesn't need anything to be different than it is. A way that's here all the time, available always, not in some special state or peak experience, but right here, right now, in the middle of ordinary life, in the middle of this apparent flatness. You just have to stop looking for it and recognize that you're already standing in it. You already are it. You always have been. You just couldn't see it because you were too busy seeking something else. Now you have nothing to seek, and that's not a loss. That's the greatest gift you could possibly receive. So you've stopped seeking. You've discovered the okayness underneath everything. But now there's something else you need to see. Because while you weren't paying attention, certain people have been draining the very energy you just found. And the hardest part, you've been calling it love. Watch this next. It's the pattern you're still not seeing.